Imagine this. It's the fall of 2002. The air's crisp, Halloween is around the corner, and Washington, D.C. is gripped by a sense of fear that is hard to shake off. People are checking over their shoulders, avoiding public spaces, and everything seems to be fine until a random shot rings out. What happens next is something you might only see in a thriller, but this was real life. Buckle up as we dive into the shocking and chilling saga of the Beltway Snipers, the calm before the storm. The calm before the storm is always the most deceiving, and that was certainly true for the residents of Washington in 2002. The world was recovering from the shock of 9/11, but a different kind of terror was quietly brewing. In the months leading up to October, isolated reports of shootings and mysterious deaths began to surface, but no one realized these events would escalate into one of the most horrifying killing sprees in U.S. history. The first major clue came with the February shooting of Kenya Nicole Cook in Tacoma, Washington, and later the murder of Jerry Taylor in Arizona. These early attacks were isolated, but they set the stage for the horror that was about to unfold. Only when the sniper attacks started in did authorities realize they were dealing with not just one, but two ruthless killers. The prelude to panic. Before October 2002, life was normal, but this would soon change. The Beltway Snipers, John Allen Muhammad, a Gulf War veteran, and Lee Boyd Malvo, a teenager with a troubled past, began their reign of terror in the D.C. area. The public's awareness of the shooting spree grew as the first few victims were shot down, but it wasn't until later that the terrifying truth started to emerge. This wasn't random violence, it was calculated, methodical, and chilling. Over 23 days from October 2nd to October 24th, 2002, Muhammad and Malvo, using a Bushmaster XM-15 assault rifle, unleashed a series of murders across Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. The victims were completely unsuspecting, simply going about their day-to-day activities, whether pumping gas or grocery shopping, and each was shot at long distances with precision. As the death toll rose, fear spread. These shootings were not random. The shooters were organized, striking without warning or pattern. October unleashed. October 2002 wasn't just the start of fall, it was the beginning of a real-life nightmare for the residents of the Washington, D.C. area. What started as isolated shootings quickly turned into a spree of violence, and with each new incident, the fear among the public grew. The unpredictability was the scariest part. Victims were randomly selected, making it impossible to predict where or when the next attack would occur. It wasn't just about the fear of being targeted, it was the chilling idea that you had no control over your safety. Imagine being a resident of D.C. During that time, stepping outside to grab your morning coffee or getting into your car became a nerve-wracking experience. People started to avoid public spaces, and the normalcy of everyday life was disrupted. Police were scrambling to make connections between the shootings, but struggled to establish a clear pattern or motive. There were no clear leads, and no one knew where the snipers were hiding. It felt like the whole city was at risk. The manhunt begins. When it became clear that the killings were part of a calculated effort, the manhunt for the Beltway Snipers began in earnest. The FBI and local law enforcement worked together, pooling their resources in a bid to catch the killers. But, despite their efforts, the trail remained elusive. With no clear eyewitnesses and the wide spread of the crime scenes, the investigation seemed like an impossible puzzle. As the attacks continued, there were multiple theories, including suspicions of more than one shooter. At one point, some even considered the possibility that the shooters might be planning a coordinated attack with a larger network of conspirators. The police had few clues to go on, and it wasn't until advanced technology was used that the investigation gained traction. Cell phone records, vehicle tracking, and mobile communications played a pivotal role in narrowing down the suspects' movements. But it was clear that law enforcement was facing an enemy who was extremely skilled at staying hidden, the technological edge. When you think of criminal investigations, technology might not be the first thing that comes to mind, but in this case, it was crucial. As the manhunt progressed, investigators turned to high-tech tools to help track the shooters. The FBI, working with local authorities, used satellite imagery, cell tower triangulation, and high-tech listening devices in their quest to catch the killers. Despite this, the snipers seemed to anticipate these efforts, evading traditional surveillance techniques. However, technology was slowly catching up. Investigators began analyzing traffic camera footage and cell phone records. A breakthrough came when authorities pieced together the location of the sniper's vehicle, a black Chevrolet Caprice, which had been spotted near the crime scenes. This discovery was crucial. Thanks to these technological efforts, law enforcement was able to zero in on the location of the killers, significantly narrowing down their search. The breakthrough. On October 23, 2002, the break investigators had been waiting for came. A civilian, noticing the black Chevrolet Caprice parked at a rest stop near Frederick, Maryland, alerted the police. This tip would prove to be the turning point. In a coordinated operation, officers approached the vehicle and apprehended John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo without resistance. Inside the car, they found the Bushmaster rifle used in the killings, along with evidence linking them to the crimes. The snipers had been caught. For the investigators, this was both a sense of relief and unease. They had finally captured the faces behind the terror. But questions still remained. What had motivated these men? What had driven them to kill innocent people? As the full scale of their plan emerged, the chilling details began to surface. The authorities were now tasked with unraveling not just the physical crimes, but the twisted minds of the snipers, the trials and tribulations. With the snipers captured, the legal proceedings began. John Allen Muhammad's trial was emotionally charged, with victims' families attending and providing testimony. Muhammad was convicted of multiple murders and sentenced to death. His execution in 2009 marked the end of a tragic chapter in American criminal history. But Lee Boyd Malvo's case was more complex. As a 17-year-old when the attacks took place, Malvo was a juvenile, and his case sparked debates about juvenile justice. Should a minor be given a life sentence without parole for such horrific crimes? In 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that mandatory life sentences for juveniles were unconstitutional, prompting resentencing hearings for Malvo. His case became a national example of the complexities of the juvenile justice system. In 2025, after several years of legal proceedings, his sentence was upheld, though the debates surrounding juvenile sentencing continue to this day. Lessons learned. The Beltway sniper attacks were a wake-up call for many, especially the residents of D.C. They learned how quickly life can change and how easily their sense of safety can be shattered. For law enforcement, the attacks highlighted the importance of better coordination and the use of technology in modern investigations. The case also underscored the need for public awareness and involvement, as tips from civilians played a crucial role in capturing the snipers. For those who lived through it, the story is one of fear, but also resilience. Communities came together to support victims' families and to reclaim their sense of safety. The attacks ultimately led to stronger communication between federal, state, and local agencies, ensuring a more coordinated response to future crises. The Beltway snipers' reign of terror came to an end, but the lessons learned from their actions continue to shape how law enforcement responds to similar cases today. And that's the chilling tale of the Beltway snipers. If you found this video fascinating, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more gripping content. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.